the graphical user interface, but we will stop at 2:25, around 2:25 for the quiz. So we have like 20 minutes for this topic. And in the last lecture, what we had seen is we had started graphical user interface, and we had just seen user interface components, and we had created this dummy screen in which we had all these different components. Now, one of the main thing that we have to decide is that not only the components, but how we will position them, because it directly affects the style, how the window will be seen, and how the user will react to that. So this is important, how to position these components. And it's not that easy, because well, when you are painting, for instance, you might say, okay, I would like to put here a tree, here a house, here's some mountain, and so on. But when you are designing a frame, an application frame, well, the size of the frame it's resizable. It can change. I can make it very little, I can make it very large, and then the components should be still somehow easily accessible by the user. So instead of putting this very static constant positions for each component, like I would say, okay, this button will be always at the right top, I wouldn't say that. We will say, okay, we will actually place them in an algorithmically. So, and JavaFX provides some different algorithms to position these components, and we will see now some popular ones. And again, well, always the output would be actually pretty disappointing with this code, because while you are doing coding, you are coding to design user interface, you really need to code a lot. You really need to think about the style. But given this kind of like 10 minutes or so, whatever we get will be not very fancy, but I'm just trying to pass the main idea that what you can do. So let's look at this code first. So we had created all these radio buttons, choice box, password fields, sliders, areas, and so on. And then the question is, how can we replace them? Well, the first one was what we had seen was VBox. V stands for vertical. So basically, it means that it will put all the items in a vertical order. So what we here do is we create our layout pane, and then for this layout pane, we add all the components that we created, and then we add this layout pane to our scene, and then we add the scene to our stage. So this is, and here what we do is we just said, okay, put them in a vertical order. So when I run this code, here is what we will get. Now, I'm not able to zoom in more, but this is, as you see, that all the items are in a vertical order. So this is, and well, maybe each of these has also some settings, like for instance, the distance between each component. Like I put one item, and then the other one will be just below that, but you might need some spaces between them. So if you can set it to, let's say, increase it from 10 to 50, then what we will get is something like this, that we have some more spaces. And if you would like to say, okay, I would like to put some boundaries from the left, right, and bottom and top, then you can set this insets, and this is how much you want. To be more visible, I will put this weird number there, like 50. Then what we will get is, now here you see that we have some here spaces from top and from the left part and so on. So basically what I want you to get is, each of these has many, not only these two actually, many parameters that you can set. Like I want to have this kind of space between each component. There should be some space between from the window, from the left side and so on. But you have to set them, all of them, when you are writing, when you are creating a code through coding. one good thing is that you have full control. You can set everything. That's a good thing. But of course, from a downside is you have to really write so many codes to generate some proper UI. That's why in many cases people use these generation tools instead of writing them manually. And we have seen VBucks, in which again basically it puts all these nodes in a vertical order with some spacing parts. But if you want to say, okay, I want to put it in a horizontal order, then you can say that we can use this HBucks, which is I will use it here. Instead of using VBucks, I will just say that HBucks it is. Now what will happen is, instead of putting them vertical, now it will put them in a horizontal order. But note that it's going from left to right. So actually it's not very easy to use because I need to enlarge the screen to reach the other parts. So if you don't want to have this problem, the next thing that we can do is, this is just an example that we have seen, is the flow pane. So in a flow pane, what happens is, well, again, it has parameters that you can set the horizontal gap between each, and then if my screen is large enough to have them all in one line, it is able to do it. But if I squeeze my screen, then what it will do is it will not make those components disappear, but it will just put them in the second row so that all of them will be we will be still able to see them. So if we want to apply this to our code, I will comment out this and then open this one. So we just need to create the flow pane, and then I'm adding all these to that flow pane object. And when I run this code now, this is what I get. So everything is actually seen, but if I just make my screen larger, as you can see that all of them are moving, or if I make it smaller, then they're all also coming, they are becoming more vertical. But again, it automatically puts all the components so that I'm always able to see all the components. Any questions so far? All right. The next one is the border pane. So this border pane, well, it has only 5 locations: the top, left, center, right, and bottom. Well, so, but when you look at this, it resembles many common web pages actually. Like if you go to, let's say, any news portal, usually they have some top pane in which they put some tabs. In the left part, probably there's some articles. In the bottom part, they provide this contact information about and so on. And then the news usually are on the center. So this is a very common layout. So this is the border pane. How can we do it? Let's also do that part. For that one, what I will do is, to better represent it, I had written some code before the lecture. I will comment this start function, and then I will use this one, okay? This contains the grid layout, okay. Let's first show the grid layout, then we can move to the other one, okay. I will come back to the border pane, but the other one is the grid pane. Now, what is a grid pane? Well, we put all these in like a matrix, like a grid, in which we have rows and the columns, and then for each cell of that part we can put one component. So this is the grid pane. Again, it has all these other parameters that you can set, which is the padding, the space, the distance between the window and this pane. The H gap is the horizontal gap between each cell, and the V gap is the vertical gap between each cells also. So when we are doing this part, what we have to do is, first we need some components. For simplicity, I just created these 6 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we create this grid pane. We say 3 by 2, which means that it will have 3 rows and 2 columns. So whatever based on your needs, you can set it, and then we will add each of these components that we have here, each of these buttons. And then we are giving actually their coordinates. So this should be the first row, the first column, the first row, the second column, and so on. So we are actually providing their indexes. This is not correct. We don't have this location, but I will show it later on what it means. But of course, we don't have this fifth row and the column 3. But first, let me give you the correct parts. So when I do this, and then when I run this code, let me save it first and then run it. This is what we will get. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, the good thing with this grid pane is that you can specify where that location can be. And where can we use this grid pane? Do you have some solid example that, okay, grid pane would be useful for this kind of a frame? Calculator, yes.
Phone number,
Yes, when we have these phone numbers, that's also very valid. Actually, we will see this code later on, but yeah, I had implemented this calculator already, in which I'm using this grid pane, and when I run this code, yeah, it will give me this kind of a calculator, for instance. And yeah, we can use this kind of a thing in a calculator so that we can put all these numbers accordingly. Any questions so far? All right, I would do this border pane. So let me also do this. Let me go to this main items Java. So what I will do, what we have to do is for that one, again, I will update this code. Instead of grid pane, I will use border pane. Okay, and it doesn't take parameter. And I also need to change this because we will not be able to give those specific locations. But what we will do is for the root set top, and now I want to put what I want to put in at the top part. We'll put, let's say, B1, the first button. Let me remind you this border pane. What I'll be looking at is this part. So the top part will be the first button. Then we can do it for all of them. I will copy paste again, and I need 2 more, and then I will change those. So for the bottom, set bottom, and then I'll say B2, let's say, and then for the left part, set left. For the right part, set right. And for the center, you can say, let's say B5. Now, the output would look very disappointing, by the way. It would look very weird, but anyhow, let me run it. So this is what it is. So at the top, we have this 1, then left at the 3, in the middle 5, right 4, and the top 2. So why does this look so weird? Well, because the size of the buttons that we set, it is small. So what you can do is, for each button, you can also say b1 dot set max size, and then you can say set double max value. And then I also do it for this one. Then let's see how this B1 will change. Now you can see this B1 became much larger. I will do it for all of them to see what it meant actually. So I will also do it for B2, B3, B4, and B5. We didn't add B6, so I will not do it. B2, B3, B4, B5. And then now let's run it again. Okay, now I have this huge button at the very center, and also for the 2, for the 4, 5, and so on. But anyhow, this is what I did is I basically set size to the maximum number, which means that whenever I change it, it always keeps the size of the button in the maximum size, which means that the size of that region. So that's why I have all the this very huge buttons. Anyhow, but the main idea is this is just to show you how this window is separated by the border pane. We have only 5 regions: top, bottom, left, right, and the center. And well, you might say, okay, what can I do with these 5 regions? That's so, embarrassingly simple, basic UI. Well, we will see it later on in the following slides. We can actually we can put a layout pane within a layout pane. We can put one more layout pane, and then we can add more components. So basically, we can combine all these layout managers. What I mean is, let's say that for the top layout here, top pane, I can put that a flow pane, and then within that flow pane, I can put many buttons so that they will be ordered horizontally. And then for the left part, I can put a V box, and then all the items there will be vertically aligned. So in short, these are very extremely simple, but we can combine them to get a more sophisticated designs that we will see actually in the following slides. But I don't think that we will have time to cover that.